I almost messed up there, and I almost had. We would have gone live, and then they would have just like stared at us for a little bit, and then I would have had to play it. It just been super awkward. All right, whatever. What's going on, y'all? We're back. It's another week of mailbag questions that we're here to answer for you guys and try and have some fun doing it, because Adam's already yawning, and we haven't even started the show, so that's not good. That's what you get for having a child and doing work all day. That's what happens. Yeah, but first and foremost, if you guys are enjoying like all the content that's coming onto YouTube, come and find us. Come and find all the rest of the folks that are putting out content on the YouTube channel. Addison Ray, Ryan McDowell. I mean, all those guys. Check us out. Drop us a link or drop us a note at the link below. Come find us there, and we'd love to answer some of your questions as they come in and week out. We got one from this week. I scoured Twitter and drummed up a couple of extras, so we're going to go back and forth and debate over a couple of them right now. So first off, this is part of the theme for the show for tonight. I got to caveat this question, but I'll let you guys see at least the basic offer like up front. So this is a 2 QB league for context, but the offer was Aaron Rodgers, Darren Waller, Le'Veon Bell for Travis Kelce and Tyler Boyd. Now, we'll look at the trade, but the emailer, like, they were wondering if at this point we should be looking to sell high on Travis Kelce, because he's getting up there in age, 31 years old. Is he an asset that we should be looking to sell high on at this point? So, Adam, what are you thinking about the trade, and then also Kelce's outlook for, I guess, until he winds up hanging him up?
Sure. If you want to share my screen while we chop it up, this is the DLF Trade Analyzer. This is the different value that we've got. It shows that Team A, quote unquote, wins the trade. Couple things before we start diving into this. One, there's going to be people mad at us for multiple reasons. One, because, well, Travis Kelce could play until he's 40 and be a tight end one the whole time. Yeah, probably could. But then there's another group of people saying 31's too old, and that's why we're here at this trade. The question is it time to sell high? I know the time to sell high has gone, and that's the problem. He probably could be a tight end one until he was 40, but it doesn't matter to the Dynasty community. His value is going to keep going down and down and down with the age. It does not matter. He could play until he's 45 and keep doing quite well, and we will still be talking about his value going down and down and down. So a couple things if I'm trading Travis Kelce. One, I want a younger tight end. The next guy. I'm not saying that Waller is that for me, but if I'm going to trade somebody like Kelce, I want somebody that has the opportunity to be the next Kelce, quote unquote. So that's one. Two, trading for a quarterback in a 2 QB league without having to give a quarterback is awesome. Even if it's Aaron Rodgers, he's still Aaron Rodgers, and his value is pretty indicative of the turmoil that we've seen. So,
right, because is he going to be a Packer next year?
Well, remember we looked at his dead cap. It is a lot. So yes, he's going to be a Packer next year for at least 3 more years, or they're going to pay a lot of money to get rid of him.
Right.
So that is very cool to get a QB without paying for, a QB. You're usually upgrading QBs in Superflex. This QB plus this player for a QB. So, and then Le'Veon Bell, his value is going to keep going down. Adam Gase didn't even want him in the first place.
28 years old.
Yeah, 28 years old. Now he's stuck with him again. He was hurt last year. But he's also probably the third value in the trade. So he's the extra player you're getting. The only thing we haven't talked about is really Tyler Boyd. And, I don't really know with Tyler Boyd. AJ Green shouldn't affect him really too much at all, because Tyler Boyd's going to play such a large percentage in the slot. T. Higgins isn't going to play a lot of slots. So really, Tyler Boyd kind of has it all to himself, regardless of if AJ Green stays or not. So he should retain value, and he's going to get at least equal production as he had with Andy Dalton, and probably better, almost definitely better. So that is another asset we do need to consider getting rid of. But again, getting Aaron Rodgers without sending a quarterback, and Darren Waller being younger, going to be 28 going into this year, buy yourself 2 years. I kind of like the deal, but again, it's not selling high. It's just kind of what you have to do right now. If you've got Kelce, I would be targeting Mark Andrews for what it's worth if I have Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, do I agree with the notion of selling high on a player like Travis Kelce? Sure. Just depends on what you're getting in return. And as Adam pointed out, I mean, if you're going to be selling high, I mean, you need like selling high, like shooting for the moon. So you need to be moving for. If you think Evan Ingram can kind of make a comeback,
Sure,
Mark Andrews
target.
Yeah, Mark Andrews, absolutely. Those guys that are young, you can see a decent amount of targets like coming their way, not just in 2020, but in beyond, part of a good offense. I mean, all of those things. I mean, that's where I would be shooting for in terms of selling high. Now, is that deal a good deal? Yes. I mean, would I accept that deal? Given the context of his team, I can also agree with that as well. So that's where I'm at on Travis Kelce. With Tyler Boyd, Adam, if I were to ask you right now, how many targets did Tyler Boyd have last season? Could you guess? Could you even get in the ballpark for the number of targets that Tyler Boyd had last season?
112.
He had 148 targets.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
I thought I was being generous.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the Tyler Boyd and Audit Date show. So, I mean,
right. Now, that's not to say that Tyler Boyd is going to wind up with close to 150. That's like DeAndre Hopkins, like level targets. Now, right. Am I going to see him having that with AJ Green being healthy, T. Higgins also becoming a part of that offense, and now you also have Joe Burrow? I mean, I don't see him having 148 targets in 2020, but 100 plus from the slot with a rookie quarterback. Tyler Eifert isn't there anymore. I mean, it's definitely within like the range of outcomes for him to have, let's say 120, let's say somewhere in there. But I mean, 24% market share for a slot receiver is pretty daggone good.
Sure.
And adding or bringing back an older wide receiver and also incorporating a rookie wide receiver that plays outside, I like Tyler Boyd. I mean, and that's me being a semi-biased could possibly be Cincinnati Bengals fan again, maybe.
And don't forget your deep darts on CJ Uzomah, and don't listen to anyone that says anything about Drew Sample because he's never doing anything but blocking. I don't care where he was drafted.
Right. I mean, Joe Mixon will always be a part of that offense. I mean, and like a part of that receiving game, and that's fine. But I mean, Tyler Boyd should be one of those guys that we start to like a bit more. I mean, given that offense, the excitement around it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I like the pieces in that deal. I mean, I would like to, if I had Travis Kelce and Tyler Boyd, I would want to probably try and keep those guys if at all possible. And then if again, back to the selling high point, if you're going to sell high, man, you need to be shooting for the moon on that one. I mean, you need to be knocking that one out. I mean, if I was going for just a quarterback straight up, I mean, who are you trying to target with Travis Kelce? I mean, are we trying to get a...
Probably won't do that, but you mean Kelce alone?
Even if he's part of a deal. I mean, would it be a quarterback target there?
Kelce alone, I'd be happy to get like Darnold in return. That would be pretty cool to me.
I wouldn't mind that like too much. I
wouldn't mind that for both sides.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fair target. So it's just selling high is kind of one of those things that you're trying to recoup like an asset that has both the projection for or production projection, I guess, if that's a term, but then also the age portion. I mean, if 31 is too old for a tight end, even though for Travis Kelce, yes, 31 is older for a tight end, but going back over his injury history, I mean, he hasn't missed a game since 2016. Right. He doesn't have the same injury concerns that like Rob Gronkowski had with multiple back injuries, shoulder, was it his elbow that they had to have surgery on? Yeah. I mean, he hasn't had those concerns. Now, not to say that couldn't be a part of his future, but it's definitely not a part of his past. Right. So, I mean, we could see him being one of those guys, at least to me, when we were talking about this before the show, he could be a guy that I wouldn't mind keeping on my roster until he dies. I mean, football dies.
Football dies, right? Like Julio Jones, you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. I mean, I could see him just sitting on my roster, and then I'll just continue to have one of Patrick Mahomes' targets until he hangs him up. And in the meantime, I'm using my 3rd round pick, 4th round pick on the next, Alberto.
Yeah, take your Jonnu Smiths and
Jonnu
wait 20
Smiths.
years.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
mean, if especially for tight end premium leagues, I mean, if you know you have something good right there, unless you're getting a ton of value in return, it's hard for me to give up on a player because you never know when that age cliff, I mean, the dreaded age cliff that we always want to try and get out in front of, we don't know when that's really going to come.
Right.
So
Yeah,
especially
and
for players like that, I don't know.
There's only so many tight ends that you can just trust to provide high-end tight end one numbers every year.
Mhm.
I mean, not Kittle, Kelce, pretty much it. Mark Andrews, we think will be that every year, but we don't know that. We've only seen him with a 45% snap share.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is just because Hayden Hearst left doesn't mean their offense changed.
Right.
And they like Nick Boyle enough to pay him. So we still will probably only see like 60% of Mark Andrews. So there's really not many tight ends. And that in itself makes him so much more valuable just because of the advantage he provides against other teams who aren't afforded a tight end that they can trust year in and year out.
Yeah. So, I mean, but obviously, like, we always want to know what y'all think, where you see Travis Kelce's value over the next like few seasons. If you already moved to a Travis Kelce, or even if maybe you're a contender and you move for Travis Kelce, I would love to hear some of your stories that you might have, or like trades that might have gone down in your leagues involving Travis Kelce. And if you think selling high on him right now is the right move for dynasty managers. So drop us a comment. I mean, in the video, once you all see it on YouTube, and let us know like where you guys are moving, like Travis Kelce, if you're moving him at all. I have him in one league. I'm probably going to keep him until he football dies because I want a piece of that Kansas City offense for as long as possible. That's just me. But all right, let's move on. So actually, you know what? We're going to take at least one question from YouTube real quick. This is an IDP question, I'm assuming. And I'm not all that great with IDP. Adam, I'm going to ask you.
Oh, this is my favorite.
I'm turning to you, man. So what's a good trade value for Darius Leonard at this point? What do you think?
I'm not going to blow smoke. I did drop out of my last IDP league this year when I cut down leagues, but Darius Leonard is one of my favorite players. I drafted Leighton Vander Esch, and then I didn't know much about LVE. And somebody was like really upset that I took him 2 picks before him. So they gave me Marcus Davenport and Darius Leonard. Didn't know much about Darius Leonard either, but I knew that they were ranked similarly. So I'm like, sure, yeah, give me one of the best pass rushers in the draft. Of course, Davenport came on pretty slow. But anyways, I got Darius Leonard and Davenport for Leighton Vander Esch, who LVE's also been great too. But anyways, to try to answer your question, I valued linebackers similarly to running backs, and they score kind of similarly as well. The thing is, though, there's not really a zero LB strategy out there. You don't want to be streaming your linebackers. You really do want to have one, probably two really good middle linebackers, and you want volume. You want a lot of tackles. You're not really looking for sacks as much. Your Ryan Kerrigans aren't as valuable in a lot of leagues. So it's tough to tell you, like, I can't just pull out of a hat what is a true good trade value for Darius Leonard, but I would value him as like a pretty good running back. I mean,
probably what are we talking?
Similar to Joe Mixon value in at least the league that I played in. And Darius Leonard was probably going to score around Joe Mixon, if not more. I mean, he was probably scoring 300 points in my league. So that's a hell of a lot of points.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're not going out and getting the James White of linebackers. You can sometimes find a linebacker who ends up with a lot of volume, but I would rather have a Darius Leonard or two Darius Leonards. And you're probably going to have to pay something like Joe Mixon's value to get a guy like that.
See, that's why I have you here, because if not, I would have been like scrambling to figure out like who Darius Leonard. I know who Darius Leonard is, but either way,
should have been an All-Pro.
That is true. But who are our IDP folks? I mean, if you can't come to us, Dwight Peoples.
Peoples.
Yep. Go find at FF Peoples Champ. Mike Woolert over at 444. Go ahead and check him out as well. I think those are the first two that come off the top of my head in terms of IDP.
We're missing a bunch, but
yeah,
I know Tom Kisslinbury will give you a very detailed answer right away.
Yes, Tom for sure. Yeah, go and check him
charts. Lots of charts.
Beautiful, pretty charts. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's move on. What else we got? We got another trade question like coming up real quick. So let's see what we have here. So this one's fairly simplistic, I think, but Kenyon Drake 4, and then it was actually a poll on Twitter that I had seen, which I thought was fairly interesting because the running backs are a little bit different. So it could be Roger for a 21 first, Michelle for a 21 first, David Johnson for a 21 first, or Chris Carson for plus a 21 first for Kenyon Drake. So doing a little bit of a price check and see what everybody thinks of Kenyon Drake at this point, and now in his first full season as an Arizona Cardinal. Right. So what are we thinking here, Adam, with this one?
The most valuable is Chris Carson, but he's coming off that big injury. Just brought in Carlos Hyde. That's going to hurt his value, but it probably won't hurt his production much, if at all. I think it's more of an insurance policy similar to the insurance policy that the Browns brought in when they brought in Hyde, not knowing that they were going to get Nick Chubb at the beginning of the second. So probably pretty similar, just like no rush for Carson to come back because we have Carlos Hyde, who can do a lot of the same things as Chris Carson, except for probably doesn't catch quite as well. But in terms of a quick flip, I really like drafting DJ this year because there's that one play that for no reason sticks into everybody's head. It was like everyone.
The one where he was like running super slow, like he was in slow-mo. Oh my gosh,
that stretch play that he gave.
Yeah, it looked really bad.
But it's like I could have done that play literally. I'm not hyperbole. And so everyone has that stuck in their head. So his value is going to suck because they think that he's hurt, and he hasn't had 2016 since 2016, obviously. But in terms of a quick flip, I drafted him in the 10th round, and that's a running back that could see 200 plus touches and over 100 targets. And, they're lacking at the wide receiver position after giving up Nuke. They really had no business getting up Nuke, but who are they throwing to? They've got Randall Cobb and Will Fuller, who can't stay healthy, but hopefully he's going to end up being their wide receiver one. So what I'm saying is DJ is going to have to be very involved in the passing game and the run game. I would like to have him and look to flip him, but honestly, any of the guys, either DJ or Carson, definitely with the 2021 first, I'm happy with.
Yeah. I'm struggling with Sony Michel's like value at this point.
Right. It's so hard. You don't know what the injury is, and why won't they pass the guy the ball when he did well with it in college? I don't get it.
Yeah, and now with Damien Harris like still there, obviously like the team's transitioning. White. Yeah, so James White's still there. I don't know if it's going to be Stidham's season or if they're going to tank for Trevor. Or if it's Hoyer. I don't know. But at least out of that group, like I'm looking at easily like Chris Carson at this point having like the highest value. And then of course we had to play with the trade analyzer to kind of see like who has like the greatest value. And out of most of them, I mean, that trade like right there, it gets the closest to Kenyon Drake's value, at least at this point in time. I guess the only other thing that I'm concerned of is the contract situation. So pulling up like over the cap. So Drake signed through this season, so we're good for 2020. But what are we looking at like beyond this season? And that's where I guess my concerns start to creep in. But if you look at how they drafted this season, I mean, it's not like they added Eno Benjamin. Eno Benjamin is not going to supplant Kenyon Drake. At least I can't see that happening. He doesn't profile that way. So unless they're looking to make a move again, like next season and add another running back to the mix instead of spending what they spend for Eno Benjamin. Was that a
sixth, I think?
Yeah, 6th rounder. So if they want to try and now make a move in the 2nd round, okay, sure. But it doesn't seem like that's where their priorities lie, at least at this point. I could be wrong. So to me, it looks like Kenyon Drake is probably at least going to be re-signed and they're going to have another deal in place for him. So I wouldn't mind at least trying to keep a hold of Kenyon Drake if I could. But out of all of those guys, I think Chris Carson probably has the best path to at least keeping value past the season. Ronald Jones, no. David Johnson, it's possible, but less likely. Sony Michel, again, nebulous situation. So out of all those guys, to me, it would probably be Chris Carson. It would be the easiest, at least for me to stomach. And then after that, it's just kind of a mismatch of try and tell yourself a story of how those guys continue to have at least that same value or at that same value, like past 2020. And it gets pretty difficult. I mean, for a lot of those guys. So
also, Eno Benjamin was a 7th round pick.
Even worse. All right.
God, I liked him in Devi.
Yeah, a lot of folks liked him in Devi. But we'll have to see. I mean, out of next year's draft class, I mean, are we thinking Najee Harris? I mean, would he be a good fit with the Cardinals? I think so. I mean, it's possible.
Sure.
Yeah. But again, it's just what is their approach to drafting running backs?
Right.
Are they going to be the team that continues to look around the league and sign running backs like they did with Kenyon Drake? Or are they going to try and make that
invest highly at all?
It could be.
And the Chiefs kind of get a lot of grief, but we call running backs a luxury pick.
Mm-hmm.
They had the luxury. And Colts, same thing for the Colts.
Yeah.
You built a great roster. We're not saying that don't take running backs. The problem is these teams that are terrible that are taking running backs, like the Giants. What has Saquon done for the program? We get it.
Tons of wins. What are you talking about?
So what I'm getting at is don't never take running backs. They're a luxury pick, and the Cardinals aren't going to be afforded that luxury for a while. So maybe Kenyon Drake is there for a couple of years.
Yeah. I have him on a roster. I've been struggling with how I can what his value is and who I can move him for. And I haven't found anything, or at least I've been in a deal or negotiations that have really suited me. I mean, even trying to move him for a 2021 first just on its own, I need a little bit more than that. It would need to be somewhere in this range plus for me to actually feel comfortable.
I wanted him. I told numerous people I want a mid-2020 first, but if you could get that, absolutely. I mean, J.K. Dobbins far and away over Kenyon Drake for me.
Easy, yeah. I think that's where now we're talking. Yeah. But we'll have to look at the 2021 class and see if that's even possible at this point. Sure. All right, let's flip back to Facebook questions and see what we got here. So this is from our buddy Matt. So Jonathan Taylor or Aaron Jones?
Yep, helping Matt with his draft right now. Easily Jonathan Taylor, by a lot. AJ Dillon was taken in the 2nd round. People can talk as much as they want about AJ Dillon, but the fact of the matter is he was drafted in the 2nd round for a reason. They're gonna use him, and Aaron Jones is going to demand money next year that he's not going to get from the Packers. So AJ Dillon's almost definitely going to be the starting running back for the Packers next year, or someone that's not Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones' value, I don't know why it's holding right now, but it's going to go down.
Yeah, it's as much as I enjoy watching Aaron Jones, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that he's the better talent. It's just from a cost perspective, it's hard for me to see
better than Dillon.
Yeah,
don't let people pitchfork you saying he's better than you're saying he's better than Taylor. Definitely.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's totally not the case. No, but I think with Marlon Mack, so what? Marlon Mack is only signed through this season. It's hard for me to see them bringing him back. So if it's not a complete takeover by JT, this season, then it will definitely be 2021. Right. Let's go.
I mean, the problem is he's so much better than Marlon Mack that you're really not going to see a committee very long. Honestly, Carry-On is pretty decent, but it's probably the same as Mack. And my point's going to be Swift. They just came out with the blurb. By the way, you're going to hear this about every single rookie running back, so you might as well just ignore it. But he's going to be in a committee. Yes. Jonathan Taylor's not going to last in a committee because he's so much better and he's running behind the best offensive line. Well, probably the best offensive line in the league coming up this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely one of those, it's difficult for me to see a better path to touches between the two. I mean, it has to be Jonathan Taylor at this point.
Yeah. And real quick, Matt, you asked another question on top of this one. Jonathan Taylor over all those guys by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, I mean, easily. I mean, Dobbins, Swift, Fournette, all those guys.
And I can answer Ryan's second question really quick too. No, I would not
Yeah.
trade Calvin Ridley for a potential mid to early 2021 on its own. And you can try to move Julio. I just moved him for a 2021 and Devontae Parker, but that's on a team that DJ Chark stepped up for me, and I get AJ Green back. So I'll match his short-term production and have a long-term asset. It just depends on your team. Honestly, Julio is probably going to have to be one of those players that football dies on your roster. Test the waters, but if you don't get a young wide receiver in a 2021 first, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Calvin Ridley, he's definitely one of those guys that I want to try and get a piece of as much as I possibly can. I mean, even after last season, he had a 17-18% target share. Matt Ryan, I mean, he threw to the interior on just about half of his passes last season. So even though Calvin Ridley lined up outside quite a bit, if he rotates into the slot even just a little bit more, I mean, right now, and he's only, how old is he, 25?
He's older. He's probably 25. Okay. And not to mention that Sanu's gone, and Sanu was using a lot of the same Sanu was working a lot of the same routes that we would see Calvin Ridley working out of. And also the wide receiver room's just not very good. Russell Gage and Laquan Treadwell after them. So we're going to see a lot of passes from Matt Ryan, and pretty centralized on those two guys, Calvin Ridley and Julio. I'm happy having both on the same team, honestly.
I wouldn't be mad at that at all. For as pass heavy as that offense is, and really his only his competition for targets is Julio Jones, and that's it.
Hayden Hearst, I guess, will work on the inside a little.
Yeah, Hayden Hearst and then Todd Gurley. I mean, but there's already the questions about his health already.
Sure, yeah.
So, all right.
We're probably looking at a good bit over 100 targets for Ridley.
Yeah. Oh, I guess one more. So if Taylor got picked, I'm assuming these are the guys that are available for him. DJ Moore.
Flip a coin between Moore and Juju for me.
I say DJ Moore, but I'm biased.
I'll say Juju, so you pick Matt.
Yeah. There. All right. Last question for tonight that we at least had planned. We'll see if any other questions pop up from the Facebook page. But this one might be a little bit of a debate. So this question here in a Dynasty League, do you draft Justin Jefferson over Henry Ruggs? And the real question is, would you draft for a better player or a better situation?
Right. If you want to go ahead and share the screen, we'll preview the ADP real quick. Justin Jefferson's at 9 and Ruggs is at 11. I like the way that you phrased the question, because we can't exactly tell which one you're talking about, between which one has the better player and the better situation, and that led for a lot of conversation before we could start the show. Yeah. Here's what I think you mean is that Ruggs has the better situation, but Justin Jefferson's the better player. I think that that's probably true, but not by as much of a margin as most people tend to believe. Now, the reason that's true is not because Ruggs doesn't have a lot of competition for target. Bryan Edwards is going to be very productive. He only fell because of an injury it's still third-round capital is fine. Tyrell Williams is still there, though Chris and I decided he's probably going to be gone next year.
He's definitely going to be gone.
Darren Waller's there. So it's not necessarily that he has this super easy path to targets that everybody thinks he has. The thing is, he fits that offense wonderfully. Those quick slants kind of get the ball out of Carr's hands quick. The West Coast offense, he's going to work really well with Gruden. So that's why it's such a good situation, but it's not because it's going to be such an easy path to targets. Not to mention, who knows how John Gruden's going to use Lynn Bowden. That guy is just electric. He's somebody that Gruden's going to be salivating over in the middle of the night like a weirdo. So it's really not that cut and dry for Ruggs. But the thing is, Justin Jefferson, it is pretty cut and dry. I mean, I really wanted to take deep shots on Olabisi Johnson. Don't really care much about him now. And you looked it up. I'll let you talk about the stats a little bit more. But the offenses really weren't too terribly different in passing attempts last year. So really, I think Justin Jefferson's probably the better player. And also, I think it's a coin flip on situation, honestly, between the two teams. You want to think John Gruden, and you want to think passing volume and how well Ruggs fits in the West Coast offense, but you still have to take Justin Jefferson because he's the better player on a similar system with easier pass to targets.
Yeah. So a couple of things with that, because that was our debate like before the show was who has the, like, I came into it when I read that question and I said that Justin Jefferson has the better situation. Adam immediately corrected me and said that he thought Henry Ruggs had the better situation. And I think that's where the problem lies with the dynasty community, just fantasy community in general, is that we can construct narrative so quickly as to how situations can be perceived that we can have this debate all day long. And for me, it's easier to just say that, well, if we can debate over situation, let's just look at the talent. And I would rather draft the better talent. And if we were having this conversation back in February, March, anytime before the draft, me personally, I can't think of any analyst that was advocating for Henry Ruggs over Justin Jefferson. I have not seen that analysis anywhere. And as Adam was saying, the ADP like never reflected that. I haven't seen any rankings. I don't remember seeing any rankings pre-draft that said Henry Ruggs was the better player than Justin Jefferson. So if we can't definitively say that one situation is better than the other, I would prefer to draft for talent. That's where my head goes.
I agree.
And then to give at least my thoughts on why the situation is better, I think Adam laid out the points, and I'll kind of like hammer some of those home. So for situation, I mean, we can name a bunch of players like within Oakland, well, now Las Vegas's offense that are now going to be a part of that passing game. We've got Jacobs, Richard, and Bowden, at least three there. We've got Waller and let's see, Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau. Yeah, so we're already up to 5, and those are just the running backs and tight ends.
Yeah.
All right, so once we talk about receivers, still got Tyrell. Do $11.5 million next year if they don't cut him beforehand. He's gone, so I understand that, but still we've got Williams, we've got Renfro, we've got Edwards. Let's see, and then now we have Ruggs as well.
Right.
So we've named off close to 10 people that are now going to be a part of that pass catching corpse in Las Vegas.
Right, and we're not just naming the depth chart. Like, I understand you could do the same thing with the Vikings, but the point is we're talking about viable.
These are viable fantasy assets. I mean, these are players that people are playing in DFS, drafting in redraft leagues, a part of dynasty leagues. I mean, these are legitimate assets that people are drafting and using. That is not the case in Minnesota. If you are drafting and starting Olabisi Johnson, let's have a side conversation about why that's happening.
That's a question for next week.
Yeah, because something has gone horribly wrong.
Right.
But I mean, with Minnesota, you can see again, vacated targets is a myth. Thank you, Peter Howard. But I mean, if Justin Jefferson is going to take over for Stephon Diggs and his how many targets did he have last season? Just short of 100. I can look it up.
No,
actually,
it was just over 100. But
not 94 targets.
Really?
Yep, 94 targets. Well, according to airyards.com. Yeah, according to airyards.com, they've got him at 94 targets. But if he's walking into a significant target share, because that's just over 20%, then still it's easier for me to tell a story as to how Jefferson gets targets versus how Ruggs gets targets.
Right.
Now, if you want to look at their offenses, now, I did for my research for my Dak Prescott piece, I was looking at neutral game script passing. Neutral game script passing is with what I found, is one of the strongest correlations to what teams do in the red zone. So if a team passes a lot in between the 20s, they normally continue to do so in the red zone. Neutral passing for the Vikings was at 55%. Neutral passing for the Raiders last season was at 53.9%. So the offenses were fairly similar in how they want to act if the score isn't on the line or whatever. So if we're projecting a similar number of passes or passing rate, then at the same time, I mean, it's again similar pass attempts or similar passing rate. I got to go with Jefferson still. One, we've all thought he was the better prospect.
Yeah.
2, I mean, I can at least tell myself a story that his situation is better than Ruggs. Again, that's just me.
And he did it in college when Ruggs did not quite produce in college.
Yeah.
There's really just there's a lot of reasons to take Justin Jefferson over Ruggs. However, I do like Ruggs' value. I think at right around, so he's being taken around Pittman, Mims, Higgins, and Ruggs. But I think Ruggs should be one tier ahead of those three, just given the fact that he did fall into the perfect offense for him. And he was also the first wide receiver taken in the draft, and that has to do something. It didn't affect his ADP at all. So essentially, people were saying he was the 201 before the draft, and then the 201 after being the first wide receiver selected in the NFL draft. That doesn't make sense. That should add something. If we're talking dollars and he was worth $14, and then you put on top of that he was the first wide receiver selected, he should be worth at least, what, $16, $17, $18 now.
You think.
Money added. So that's why he's a value right now.
Yeah. And I think you changed my mind on the whole situation when it came to just looking at it from, if there's going to be any wide receiver that pops, I mean, Ruggs has to be one of those that pops out of this class.
There's nothing that can stop him from popping right now. And if he doesn't, he's not gonna. Right.
I mean, draft capital, like his college production, like how he could be used like within that offense. If there's going to be one that pops this season, it has to be Ruggs. I mean, Pittman, no. I mean, Mims, no. I mean, Higgins, no. I mean, any of those guys that are being drafted around him, it's harder for me to tell that same story. But with Ruggs, it's just like he has to be. He has the best chance to be one of those guys that pops.
And to reiterate that point, it doesn't mean that Pittman, Mims, or Higgins can't be good in year one. It just means that if they aren't good in year one, there are excuses to be made, a la N'Keal Harry, a la Paris Campbell. But Ruggs, you buy right now at cost at the 201, and if he doesn't pop, that's fine because he wasn't expensive in the first place.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't pop in year one, there's no excuses for Ruggs. So you're buying him, expecting him to produce right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Even for a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
You can still expect he needs to at least get 500, 600, 700 yards this year, around 100 targets at least, something like that. Or at least you didn't spend a lot on him.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, I think that the debate for player versus a situation is one that we'll continue to have like every season with every single player. I mean, it's going to be the endless debate. But as always, we want to know what you guys think, where you guys are headed, like when it comes to looking at like players and understanding or their perceived situation and how that changes your evaluation of that particular player. So we always want to hear from you guys. So drop us a comment and let us know what you think. And with that, I mean, we've answered what, like 5-6 questions tonight. We actually did pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, very good show. Lots of information.
So thanks everybody for stopping by. The folks in the Facebook chat, we definitely appreciate y'all like stopping through and letting us know what you guys think. Any other comments? Come and find us on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX, at AP Wildy. Drop us a comment like on the YouTube link. Come find us using the link or whatever. So the DLF Mailbag link. Email us any questions you guys might have. We'll be back here again next Wednesday night. And until then, I guess we'll catch y'all next week.
Peace.